Jay Lucas is off to Duke, and quite frankly, it sucks. We talk about that on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on in to Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, writer for Sports Illustrated for various SEC-related things. But on this podcast specifically, we take a dive into all things Kentucky athletics. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind everybody out there that we are free and available on all platforms. Starting off the episode today, Jay Lucas officially off to Duke. This is news that broke last Friday, but we had so much to get to that we didn't have time to really cover this. It's it stinks on the surface that you lose somebody that's one of the better young coaches in the sport. Really good recruiter, really good in the state of Texas, obviously working with Shaka Smart previously at Kentucky for a couple of years, but he's off to Duke. And this would be easier to stomach if it wasn't Jay Lucas going to what is Kentucky's biggest recruiting rival at the moment, and the Duke Blue Devils. It sucks. There's no other way to put this. This stinks. I would have much rather had Jay Lucas than not. I don't want to kid onto this show and bash Calipari and say, well, this is just one L after another L after another L, but this ain't great. This is not great to lose Jay Lucas to your biggest recruiting rival. It would be perfectly acceptable if you lost him, but it would be like I could sleep at night knowing that he was not at our recruiting rival. It is the way it is. During a Monday radio spot with Dan Issel and Mike Pratt, Coach Calipari said he's pushing to get upgraded basketball facilities, and then immediately remarked on Jay Lucas's departure to Duke, and then explained what Kentucky is looking for in his replacement. And this is a quote from an article from a Sea of Blue. Calipari said, "Now, as we start talking about staff because of the name, image, and likeness in the transfer portal, it's even more vital. Whoever it is, they have to add value. They have to show me how they've added value to players. Our stuff here is results." So Calipari looking for somebody that is able to relate to players, able to relate to a lot of different people, and they're able to make an impact with NIL and the transfer portal. And Calipari saying essentially they've got to be able to step up and fill what is a considerable void. Now, I want to also note, and this is something that a Sea of Blue notes as well, Calipari mentioned he didn't fire Lucas, so the Kentucky coach must have heard someone suggest that to him. Calipari said, "First of all, I did not fire Jay Lucas, and I did not force him out. I wish him well. This is what he thinks is best for his program, and I absolutely wish him well, and we all should." And I do wish Jay Lucas well. I do hope that he's able to find success with the Blue Devils, and I know that he probably wants to go and make a name for himself. I know he probably wants to be a head coach someday, and he's had his time here at Kentucky. He had his time at Texas, and now he's moving to another program, and I think this is just another step forward for him during his time as a basketball coach. And so we wish him the best. We do. I really do think that it's fair to just not. It's fair to criticize Cal for letting something like this happen and letting him go to a place like Duke, but I don't think you hate on Jay Lucas. I mean, he's doing what he thinks is best for himself. And so all you got to do is say, we support you and we appreciate what you did for the program. Now, circling back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, the fact that this sucks, I mean, you still have the opportunity to replace him with somebody that could do the job well. And I think that Kentucky has a few different people that they're looking at right now. I've seen a few names thrown out there. I've not necessarily seen a list of specific replacements that would be legitimate. Like a Sea of Blue also had a list out where you could maybe get Rod Clark or Rajon Rondo or Jalen Rose or Jarence Howard, or there are several names out there. For me personally, I've not seen anybody Tracy McGrady, another one. There there are names out there. I just don't know what's legitimate and what's not. And so I think we're just going to have to wait until we see this kind of come closer to ending, and we kind of see, okay, well, these are actually the legitimate couple of candidates here for the job. And so I think just more news will have to come out before Wildcats fans can kind of get excited about somebody. But all due respect to Jay Lucas, it's not like Kentucky it just doesn't have the ability to replace him. They're going to find somebody that they believe will be able to do his job and do it well. And I have confidence in Kentucky finding the right guy. I mean, they found Jay Lucas. Who's to say that they don't find the next Jay Lucas that might even be better? And so while it does stink, I think there's an optimistic way to look at it and say, well, you know what? This loss is on Coach Cal, but you know what? If he's able to make it up, I don't think that this is the end of the world. So that's that. Jay Lucas off to Duke. We could probably talk about this a little bit more in depth, just talk about, the nuances of why he left and what Duke had to say and the offers that John Shire made him. I don't want to get into that. Because it's in the past, quite frankly. This news is already 3 days old, so I don't necessarily think we're going to be diving into it too much. But what I do want to take a little bit of time to talk about, there is a new Kentucky prospect on the recruiting trail, the class of 2022, actually. So it's a recruit that Kentucky could get this offseason, and he has already set his commitment date. Don't know where he's going, but I have a guess. He's coming to Big Blue Nation. Going to talk about that prospect in just a second. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about our friends at Built Bar. Summer is coming, and with summer, you're going to need some food on the go. Built Bars are the perfect snack to take with you on family vacations to make sure you are fueled for your summer adventures. And the best part about Built Bars, they're healthy and delicious. No more sacrificing delicious food for health. With Built Bar, you can have both, and it's easy. It's absolutely easy, and they've got all these new flavors. We've talked about this recently on the podcast. They've got a new flavor that's called churro. It's literally a churro-flavored protein bar. It's absolutely phenomenal. Who doesn't want to have that? And then, as always, we suggest cookies and cream or salted caramel here on the Locked On Kentucky podcast. Would highly encourage you guys to try one of those two flavors. Absolutely delicious. Also, really, really good for you. Packed with protein, low in calories, low in sugar. Built Bars are incredible. You can go to Built.com right now, and you can use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off. That is at Built.com. All right, moving along here on the Wednesday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe here with you. We really appreciate you guys making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. There is a new Kentucky prospect on the recruiting trail. Adou Theiro is his name. A lanky combo guard out of Leetsdale, Pennsylvania. 6'5", 185 pounds. Officially visited the Wildcats on April 27th and has set his commitment date for Sunday, May 8th. So I didn't actually know about this kid at all until Kentucky started pursuing him just a couple weeks ago. And gotten to watch a little bit of his tape. You can go watch some of his highlights on YouTube. He was unranked on 24/7 Sports before the Wildcats reached out to him. He was unranked. And now, actually, he currently sits as, I think, a borderline 4-star. He's got like a .89 something rating on 24/7. Borderline 4-star. But yeah, .8916. The number 28 combo guard in the country. Number 6 player overall in the state of Pennsylvania. Number 189. The 189th overall prospect nationally. Looking at some of the teams that have offered him and actually were on him before the Wildcats were Maryland. He took an official visit with them just a few days before he visited Kentucky. Xavier has given him an offer as well. He took a visit to Xavier just 2 days before the Wildcats. And then Pittsburgh and Cincinnati are also warm on the recruiting trail, according to 24/7 Sports. But I really do think that this is going to be a Kentucky commitment. And there are some people out there that may say, well, we're not necessarily fired up about some 3-star kid that was unranked before the Wildcats looked at him. It's just like, why are we going after kids like this right now? Is this literally just to fill out the roster to get 10 scholarship players? And I know that there are a lot of concerns out there right now with the way that the direction of the program is heading. I think that after you look at this kid's film, I think he's just simply a late bloomer. He apparently has grown a lot recently. He's sitting at 6'5" right now. And when you watch some of his game, and I think fans may like this one, whenever I watch him, and I've seen other people say this as well, this is not just a me take, or not just my take. It's like a taller Tyler Ulis, the way that he handles the ball, the way that he plays the game. He's got really long arms, just a lanky kid. And this is the scouting report that I saw on him. He's got a tight handle for his size and wingspan. His dribble is tight and efficient. He has a really good change of direction. I noted that as well. I mean, when you look at him transition, he's got really good patience, but also really, really good when it comes to changing direction quickly as well. Scouting report also notes that the person writing the scouting report said, I wouldn't necessarily say he's a big blow-by guy, but with his frame and ability to handle the ball, he can get to where he wants to go on the floor. He has a right and left-handed floater. He has a mid-range game. You can see that in some of his highlights. He can finish at the rim with both hands, has some creativity at the rim. He can shoot the three. That's one area where he can continue to improve, but he makes his shots. I liked what I saw out of him. It looks like it's the scouting report notes that it's not necessarily blow-by is not necessarily a huge part of his game, but when you watch some of his highlights, I mean, he's just got such long arms and he's just so lanky. It looks like he covers the floor so quickly, and against smaller players, he's able to get to the hole quick. And this is something that I think Kentucky would really like to have on their roster. When you look at Severe Wheeler right now, sitting at 5'8", I don't necessarily think that Kentucky wants to constantly have a smaller guard out there on the floor that can't shoot. Would love to have somebody that's got a little bit of length out there at point or at shooting guard, and I think Thiero would be a great player to put out there. And then also, I think he's got the statistics to back up why Coach Cal has taken an interest in him. Averaged 23.3 points, 10.3 rebounds, 5.9 assists, 3.9 steals, and 2.3 blocks per game during his senior season in high school. Those are good numbers. And I don't know what his shooting percentages are. We can see what he does from three if he does commit to the Wildcats, and I do believe that he is going to. But he's got the stats. I like his film. He's a raw prospect. He's a 4-year type of guy. He's a project. But I think that this is just one of those guys where it's like, you know what? He's a late bloomer. He wanted to go to Kentucky. It was his dream school coming out of high school, apparently. I think he's going to come to the Wildcats, and this is somebody that could develop into a valuable piece down the line. And some people are really particular out there. Some fans are really particular about the fact that, like, you know what? We're not taking anybody if he's not a 5-star. And if we do take somebody that isn't a 5-star, we're not making the national title game. And those type of people cry themselves to sleep every night. And you know what? That's okay. Y'all do that. But whenever I look at him, I don't care about the star rating here. I'm just looking at the raw talent and the potential. I like him. I think that he would be a valuable addition to this year's team. If we're just talking about putting somebody out there that's got size, and he's somebody that will be able to work on his game and hone his craft over several seasons. And the fact that he's already able to handle the ball so well at 6'5" is great. That's great. But yeah, a little bit of a project. I think he's committing to the Wildcats. We'll just have to wait and see. Again, announcing his commitment Sunday, May 8th. One more time, 6'5", 185-pound combo guard out of Leetsdale, Pennsylvania, Adou Theiro. Hope I'm pronouncing his name right. If I'm not, I apologize. All right. Haven't talked a lot of Kentucky football recently on the podcast. Want to get to some of the names that were called during the NFL draft this past weekend. Kentucky had 4 selections. Going to talk about those guys in just a second. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now virtually impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why would you choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto's prices are also reliably low for every customer, and they're a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. And on top of that, they've got everything you could need, from brake parts to tail lamps to motor oil and even new carpet. You can go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. You can write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so that they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices. It's all the parts your car will ever need. It's over at rockauto.com. All right, wrapping up the Wednesday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe here with you. Kentucky in the NFL draft. So they had 4 guys selected. 2 offensive linemen, which has just essentially become a staple of Kentucky football in the draft as of late. But they had 2 guys go before the offensive linemen. First guy, Wan'Dale Robinson, star receiver for the Wildcats this past season, went in the second round, the 43rd overall pick to the New York Giants. Their general manager, Joe Schoen, said, for what we're going to do offensively, he'll be a very good fit for us. And New York needs some playmakers, man. They need some kids that can find their way into the end zone. New York's receivers had a really hard time scoring touchdowns last season. I mean, the guy that they've got throwing them the ball is not necessarily great at getting receivers to catch the ball in the end zone, but I mean, they need some guys. If they can't throw the ball to the end zone, they need to at least throw it to some guys, even if it's behind the line of scrimmage, that can create and do their own thing in open space. They've already got a guy in Kadarius Toney from Florida that they drafted last season that can do that. But Wan'Dale Robinson is another possession type of guy that can create yards after the catch. I think that this was a good pickup for the Giants, and I'm really excited to see what Wan'Dale does at the next level. Really good route runner, not the greatest in terms of size, but the fact that he was able to get picked in the second round, again, 43rd overall pick, really excited for him. Another guy that I'm just insanely excited for, Josh Pascal, was picked in the second round, the 46th overall pick, just 3 picks after Wan'Dale Robinson. Pascal's going to the Detroit Lions. And Lions general manager Brad Holmes really harped on just how awesome Pascal was, not just as a player, as an athlete, but as a person. He said, you're wowed when you turn on the tape, but then you find out about the human being and you're just impressed even more. Josh Pascal, really good dude, really good edge rusher here during his time with the Wildcats. Wish him all the best. I'm excited. You know what? I'm not the hugest fan of the Detroit Lions. It's just like I'm not. I don't particularly root for one specific NFL team, and I don't dislike the Lions. But let me tell you something. Their new management that they've got in town, and their new coach, and just the vibe around that team is more positive. It feels like they're working more. They're working harder. It feels like they're trying. And I think that Josh Pascal and his type of personality and the type of player that he is, I think he's going to fit in Detroit well. And best of luck to him. Hopefully they're able to win some games this season. But more importantly, I hope Pascal's able to show out. And then in the third round, first Kentucky offensive lineman off the board, Luke Fortner, went in the third round to the Jacksonville Jaguars, 65th overall pick. Doug Peterson said there's a lot to like about Luke. He's wired the right way. We do like him at center, but he has the position flex to move to guard as well. I believe we talked about that before on the podcast, is that Luke is not necessarily going to play center, depending on where he went. Has the position flex to move to guard as well. He can do everything that we do in our offense in the run game, whether he's reaching the 3 technique or climbing to the second level, he can just redirect, and that's something that's going to be really important in the pros, is not just finding your way on the line of scrimmage as a run blocker, but also finding ways to reach the next level and to be able to get downfield and block. And some of the best offensive linemen in the NFL really know how to do that well. And Luke Fortner, really solid, flexible piece for the Jags, and they need some help just about everywhere. Maybe get some blocking for Trevor Lawrence, their quarterback down in Jacksonville. Excited for Luke Fortner. And then the final guy here, Darion Canard, went in the 5th round, the 145th overall pick to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs need some offensive line help. Darion Canard, don't know how quickly he would be able to contribute to the Chiefs, but it's certainly somebody that they can have waiting in the wings and maybe develop him a little bit. Excited for Darion Canard. And I just want to say overall here, before we wrap up, if Kentucky's known for anything in the Mark Stoops era, It is developing offensive linemen and putting them into the NFL, at least as of late. And I think they're going to have a streak here for the next couple of seasons where they've got guys going to the pros. They've got a couple offensive linemen this year that could go. I'm looking at Keontae Goodwin. Depending on how he pans out, could even be a first-round selection for the Wildcats down the road. I'm excited to see what he does. But yeah, Kentucky in a really good in a really good spot in terms of putting talent into the NFL. A lot of teams out there aren't putting 4 guys in, at least from the draft, every single year. Kentucky football is in a golden age. We've harped on that a lot on this show. Anyway, all right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Now make your second listen of the day Locked On SEC. Get all of your daily SEC news in less than 30 minutes with SEC expert Chris Gordy. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow our show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDaw_, and you can follow the show on Instagram at Kentucky Podcast. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and God bless.